Jimmy's Food Factory opens again in half an hour. Before that, on BBC One Wales, bigamy and lion taming, an unexpected family ancestry for actor Michael Sheen in a new series of Coming Home.
Film actor Michael Sheen is coming home in search of his Welsh ancestry. Famous for playing Prime Minister Tony Blair, Brian Clough in The Damned United, and David Frost in Frost Nixon, he's even transformed into a ferocious werewolf. But now he's back in his beloved Port Talbot.
As soon as I start to see the steelworks obviously off in the distance, there is no feeling like it for me. I get even emotional talking about it now. Coming back to this town. It's just, it really affects me. I absolutely love it here.
Michael Sheen has come home. Later in Coming Home, Michael discovers his family's bigamous past.
But she's got married. So that marriage doesn't actually count.
Learns of his lion-taming great-grandmother,
Who suffered a terrifying experience when one of the big cats went for her in the ring, biting off part of her breast.
and uncovers a moving family secret.
That's extraordinary.
Michael's day starts very early in the morning at first light.
My Welsh roots are everything. It's where I come from. It's the people I come from, the land I come from. It's, you know, just in my own lifetime, it's made me who I am. I know a little bit about a certain strand of my ancestry, so you're going to have to work very, very hard to top the little bits of history that I do already know, or indeed that my family have completely made up.
The journey begins here at Port Talbot's ancient Margam Abbey. It's the first time Michael has visited this famous building, which dates back to the 12th century. Steeped in the history of Port Talbot, it's the perfect place to meet with genealogist Mike Churchill-Jones. Straight away, there is a revelation on his tree. When a John a Sale married Mary Gethin in 1826, Michael's mother and father's family trees came together, thus leading to a much closer family than Michael had bargained for.
Have you heard the name Gethin before?
I have, yeah.
Right. Mary Gethin. Now, she had a brother, William Gethin.
This is becoming slightly frightening.
Well, if I bring you all the way down to the bottom of that line and tell you that your first cousin, Caroline, is also your fifth cousin once removed on the Gethin line.
That's mad. Look at us, we are all inbred, after all. Yeah. It's all becoming clear now.
All becoming clear now.
For the first time in his life, Michael is about to discover that the Sheens originally came from Ireland. The story begins with his great-great-grandfather.
So let's get back to the biggest name on the tree, the Sheens.
Yeah.
Thomas Sheen was born 1865 in Cardiff. He died 1903. He was born to Edward Sheen and Catherine Hickey. And both Edward Sheen and Catherine Hickey were born in Waterford in Ireland.
Well, well, well. It's interesting that the name was Sheen, because various people have speculated that, you know, oh, does the name Sheen come from Ireland, but as a derivative of Sheehan, S-H-E-E-H-A-N.
The original Irish spelling of the Sheehan name was later anglicised to Sheen, as seen on the modern tree today. The Sheens came originally from Ireland, but on his mother's side, his Welsh roots run deep. This is a photograph of his Welsh great-grandmother, Mary Fisher. Michael wants to know more about her, but there's a problem.
Now, Mary Margaret Fisher has become very elusive to me. I have failed to find a birth to her at this precise moment.
Right,
Okay?
She's a woman of mystery.
She's a woman of mystery, but I am conducting further investigation into her.
Watch this space.
Unravelling Mary's family story will later lead to a shocking discovery for both Michael and for his mother, Irene.
The biggest occupation in your tree is actually tin workers, tin plate workers.
Yeah.
And that takes up a significant part of your South Wales ancestry.
Men working with their hands.
Indeed.
Given that I've never done a day's honest work in my life.
Next, Michael is off to nearby Aberdillice Falls and the historic tin works. On the way, he reflects on what he's learned so far.
But obviously it was a surprise to me about the Irish connection, that the Sheen name itself came from Ireland, which I've been denying for years. When people kind of go, Sheen, that sounds like an Irish name, you must have come from Ireland. I go, no. I think it's Scandinavian originally. And it turns out, no, it is indeed from Ireland. That rather alarming, the family on both sides kind of joins up again, which Mike seemed to think was a fantastic thing. And, you know, people would pay millions to have a family line like that. To me, it just sounds like deliverance and banjo playing.
From 1805 to World War II, successive generations of his family were South Wales tin workers. The best preserved is at Aberdillice Falls near Neath, where Michael meets historian Roy Thomas.
The tin industry in Wales was huge. There were over 100 tin plating works, and the area around Swansea and Neath was referred to as Tinopolis. It was known worldwide.
Right.
It came to Wales not because there was any tin mines in the area. Tin mining took place in Cornwall. But what Wales had was steelworks, it had anthracite, and it had good communications. And that's what brought tin plate works here.
The tin works was at the forefront of Welsh industry, providing the materials needed to produce items for the food and canning industries. It was the ability to preserve food long-term in tin cans that made it possible to sustain troops on the front line during the First World War.
I see there's a quote here, Roy. It says, "It was so hot, the sweat ran out of our shoes."
Yes.
What's that all about then?
You certainly wouldn't accept these working conditions today, but health and safety would have you. In a situation, you've got large furnaces and annealing furnaces running right across this place. Everything was kept hot to work. It was smoky, it was steamy, it was red hot.
I worked in a drive-through burger bar in Port Talbot, just by the M4 once. It was a little similar to that, I would imagine.
From cold rollers to foremen, generations of Michael's family, men and women, worked with tin. Michael's ancestor, Margaret Edwards, worked as a puddler.
Looking through the list, the one that struck me initially was a lady called Margaret Edwards, whose job was referred to as puddler.
Yes, puddler. Now, I'm very interested in finding out what a puddler is.
She would have run the furnace, opening the doors, using tongs, not hands, 60 or 70 pound weight of molten or almost molten metal out, and putting it down for the forge to hit.
Okay, I'm glad she used tongs, because my mum can hold a very hot cup of tea, but I don't think she would be able to handle that.
Back in the grounds of Margam Park, and Michael Churchill Jones now has more information to disclose about Michael's great-grandmother, Mary Margaret Fisher.
Do you remember I told you that your great-grandmother, Mary Margaret Fisher...
The mystery woman.
She was indeed a mystery woman.
Yeah.
That's the marriage certificate when she married your great-grandfather in 1913.
Right.
She gives her name as Mary Margaret Fisher, and her father's name's John Fisher. Well, I've managed to trace her birth. And you can see from that, she was actually born Mary Margaret Fisher as a middle name, and her surname is Rees.
Ah.
She was born to Mary Rees,
Formerly
Williams. No father's name. I've managed to trace Mary Williams. She was born 1850 in Taibach to David and Lucy Williams.
Mm.
She married in 1870 to an Erin Rees. And the next time I've picked her up is on an admission record into Llety Nedd, the workhouse in Neath.
Good God.
In 1878. She's been admitted into Neath workhouse with her 3 children.
Now, why would she be in the workhouse? Because no money.
Well, what I suggest you do is, if you go along to Llety Nedd workhouse and carry out further investigation there.
Right. Wow, God, the plot thickens.
Indeed it does.
The birth certificate has revealed that Mary Fisher's mother was called Mary Williams, and it's Mary Williams' story that Michael is off to discover.
Knowing that she ended up in the workhouse, obviously there's a very sad story there, and it's not going to be happy. No one went to the workhouse really of their own, voluntary, volition. So, it's a bit perturbing to know what happened, but we'll see.
In the heart of Neath, Michael is searching for Llety Nedd workhouse. It's closer than he thinks.
That looks old. Well, I'm assuming it's old.
But will he be able to find it?
Oh my God! Llety Nedd, built 1838.
Now a veterinary practice. Today the former workhouse is owned by Richard Irons, who is about to lift the lid on the hidden past of Michael's great-great-grandmother, Mary Williams.
Oh my God. That looks very old. I'm glad this is being filmed, just in case
Yes,
I don't come back.
It's a worry. Watch your head on that one. That's the usual one. I'll come down right behind you.
Okay. If I hear the noise of that grate being put on top again, I feel like I'm in an episode of Lost.
In the cellar, the mood changes. This was originally the basement of the workhouse where Michael's great-great-grandmother Mary Williams and her 3 children came to live.
It's not the most welcoming of places, really, is it?
Whilst excavating the cellar, Richard made a sad discovery.
I don't know. I find that quite moving.
That's extraordinary.
A
Yeah.
long-abandoned child's shoe.
Now, the thing I find fascinating about this is a child, and my children never wore their shoes out. They just grew out of them. But look at this.
Yeah, the heel is
It's worn down. So that must have been worn by several children in a row.
Yeah,
in
because
order to
if
get
your
that
feet
underway.
were that small...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad, isn't it? I don't know.
Outside, Michael is joined by author and workhouse historian Peter Higginbotham.
We do have Mary's original workhouse admission record. So they were here for exactly a year. They discharged themselves, I think, more or less to the day a year later. We don't know why. Maybe the anniversary of them arriving had come up and they thought, we're out of here. I just can't cope anymore. What happened? But the interesting thing, Mary was married.
Yeah.
She wasn't a widow or a single. So where was the husband? That's really the big query. Because when he came into the workhouse, the whole family had to come.
Yeah.
Husband, wife, and children.
So where was he?
Where was he?
So why was Mary facing her ordeal without her husband? Who was he? And why, across a whole year, did he not come to save them from the workhouse? What Michael doesn't yet know is that the story is far from over. Next, Michael is off to Cardiff to learn about the Sheen side of his family tree. They arrived in Cardiff from Ireland in 1850. Here at Cardiff's Catholic Cathedral in the heart of the city, Michael can discover more about the early life of the Sheens. He is greeted by Canon Peter Collins, who has discovered some rare documents in the church archives.
Michael, I'd like to show you one of the baptismal registers that we've taken out of the archive. And at the top of this page, I just want to point out Thomas Sheehan.
Thomas Sheehan was Michael's great-great-grandfather.
He was
Goodness.
born on the 14th of August, 1865.
Wow. So this is how the name came to Wales.
Absolutely so.
Wow, and it's not that long ago, really, is it? 1865.
Yeah. The parents had 14 children altogether.
Really?
14
Wow.
children.
Since they came to Wales?
Yes, they were married
14
here,
children. Wow.
3 of whom were named Michael.
It was a popular name. Wow. 3 Michael Sheens.
And we have some certificates here that I want to show you. Here we have the death certificate of one Michael Sheehan.
1868. So he died very young then, presumably.
Indeed.
There's something rather bizarre about seeing the death certificate of someone with the same name as you.
Indeed, so.
I suppose they had to name 3 of them Michael for one of them to maybe make it into adulthood.
And this is another Michael Sheen.
He only made it to 4 months, poor thing.
The fact is they had large families, and many of them died in infancy. And of the 14 children, I think 8 died altogether, 7 of them in infancy.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I wonder, you know, as a mother, as a parent of those children, I mean, it's hard to know do you just inure yourself to the fact that that's going to happen and it becomes easier to deal with, or does the impact of that each time rock you as a family, I wonder?
I think parents never become inoculated against the death of a child. But times were indeed tough, and they had to engage with life as best they could. This finally is a depiction of the family line.
How extraordinary to see that. It seems such a short leap on this piece of paper. And yet so much has been endured to get down to that. The chances of life being able to keep going and perpetuate. It's absolutely extraordinary. I had no idea that they were there. I had no idea that that was the sort of conditions they were living in, and that, I mean, it's extraordinary to see all those names of the 14 children and seeing how many of those names have made it down the generations and are still around in the family without any of us knowing that's where they came from, you know, and especially to see that they really, really wanted to have a Michael, because they had 3 of them, and none of them survived. None of the 3. I think the oldest one managed to get to 6 years old and then died. So it really affected me to see that, you know, and to think, wow, weirdly, Michael did kind of come out of it, and it's me.
Next, Michael is being taken to a secret location. He's about to discover an extraordinary twist in his family's tale. He has no idea what to expect, but tries to figure it out.
We're going to play golf. Is it Zippo Circus? Is that what we're going to go and see?
Michael's great-great-grandmother on his paternal side was a circus lion trainer.
This is absolutely thrilling.
Michael is joined by circus historian Jim Clubb. Here, animal acts are now firmly in the past. Today, the entertainment is of the human variety.
Wow. It's like coming home.
Yes. So I can actually confirm your great-grandmother was really a lion trainer with the famous Bostock and Wanwald's travelling menagerie.
Wow.
And in 1896, she went to America with Frank Charles Bostock, who was one of the brothers, to set up a completely new show in New York. Frank Charles Bostock, he was a lion trainer from the age of 12 years old. And he was known as the Animal King. And he really changed the whole look of trained animals. He was a very humane animal trainer.
And would it just have been lions, or would it have been
No,
other
they in the travelling menageries, they usually had 4 combinations. They'd have a troop of lions, occasionally tigers, but tigers were still quite rare. And then what they called the mixed group, which was bears, wolves and hyenas.
Bears, wolves and hyenas.
And that was usually the easiest act. And they used to start off with the new people working with the bears, wolves and hyenas.
So would Mary have worked with bears, wolves
I
and
would have
hyenas?
thought so, yes. They were called the cheap mixed group because all the animals were cheap to buy in those days, you know.
So my connection with
Yes,
wolves goes back right the way to Mary Ann.
Yes, yeah.
Having played a wolf myself
Yes,
now.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
here's a
fantastic.
picture of her, you know, like here, this is what she looked like.
Wow. Medals. Do we know what those medals were
Yeah,
for?
well, they used to give them medals for bravery. You know, she did have this accident with a lion.
Mary's story appeared in the 1988 Pembrokeshire magazine.
Travelling with Bostock and Wombwell in America about 100 years ago was a British girl. I guess
Yeah,
that was
that's her, yeah.
lured from home by the romance of the circus and by the challenge of the lion tamer's job she had been offered. The girl was Mary Ann North, an aunt of Lizzie Holmes, her father's eldest sister, who suffered a terrifying experience when one of the big cats went for her in the ring, biting off part of her breast. Despite the pleas of her family, Mary Ann insisted on continuing with her work. She was a trooper.
Yes, a real trooper.
She told her brother, the boxer, Alfred Greenfield North, "If you can fight the biggest man, what's the difference in me going into the ring with a lion?" But eventually love brought her back. She married a man from Aberaeron and settled there, running a market stall, and never travelled anymore.
Before leaving, Michael can't resist having a go himself.
Lovely. Okay, let's have a go. Let's try, well, I'll try one first. Okay, so one. Well, they're quite heavy. And then 1, 2.
Whoa,
1, 2. Okay. All right, here we go.
Whoa. Good.
Close.
Pretty good.
Close. Thank you very much. Not bad. Still in the blood, still in the genes. Thank you.
Things now turn more serious. Earlier, Michael visited the workhouse Lletynedd, home to his great-great-grandmother Mary Williams. It appears she had gone there after being abandoned by her husband. Michael Churchill Jones has now discovered his identity.
It's from the Cambrian newspaper, dated June the 20th, 1879. This will give you the reason why she was there, basically, if you can read from here.
An unfaithful husband, Aneurin Rhys of Aberavon, was charged by the Neath Guardians with leaving his wife and family. Defendant said he had no means to keep them.
I can tell you on the back of that, they got back together.
Despite a brief reunion, Aneurin Rhys continued his unfaithful ways, and soon afterwards, Mary decided to tell people she'd been widowed.
And it's about this time that she actually met John Fisher in the Aberavon, Margam area. She'd confided in him that she'd lost her husband. She was just had a child. He took pity on her. He took her into his abode, into his house. He called her his housekeeper. As we know, John Fisher became more than her employer because he became your second great-grandfather with the birth of Mary Margaret Fisher Rhys in 1889.
By wedding Fisher, Mary had entered into a bigamous marriage. Pictured here on the right is their daughter, Mary Fisher. The little girl beside her is her granddaughter, Irene, Michael Sheen's mother. Later, Aneurin Rhys also claimed to be widowed and married to Jane James, but his days would not end well.
I can show you an extract of the 1901 census, and at the top of the page, this is Lletynedd Workhouse, Aneurin Rhys, inmate.
Good God.
He's telling us he's a widower. He's not a widow to Jane because she's still alive.
And he's in the workhouse now.
In a bizarre twist of fate, Aneurin Rhys ended up in the same workhouse he had left his wife and children many years earlier.
But she's got married. So that marriage doesn't actually count. Wow, wow.
So both Mary and Aneirin were claiming to be widowed, but they were both very much alive. Michael's on his way home to visit his parents for the first time since beginning his ancestral journey.
It'll be interesting to see how much my mum knows about this already, or it'll be very interesting to see her reaction. I mean, I don't think she's going to be like scandalized or anything, or upset. I don't think so. We'll see.
Michael's parents have been living in Baglan, South Wales for over 30 years, on the same street and in the same house Michael grew up in. He's eager to talk to them about what he's learned.
Hello.
Love.
How are you?
Morning.
How's the day? How's it going? All right. I didn't really need a coat or a hat, to be honest.
So what are his parents' expectations for Michael and the journey he has taken into their family's past?
We're waiting eagerly to hear what he's found out, really.
Yes, can't wait. I just hope that everything is okay. I was saying today, I wonder how many skeletons are going to come out of the cupboard.
Michael can now reveal everything he's learned, from circus folk to tin men. But there's one story he can't wait to tell his mum about, and that's her great-grandmother Mary Williams and her turbulent marriage to Aneirin.
Oh,
Incredible.
Look at this. Oh gosh, look at that.
So, her real name's not Mary Margaret Fisher. Her real name's Mary Margaret Fisher Rees, because when her mother, Mary Rees, got married to John Fisher, she was still married to Aneirin Rees. So that marriage isn't legal or binding.
Oh my goodness me. Oh, my auntie's going to be really surprised.
Has that idle in?
Yeah, this is going to come as a real shock, I think, anyway.
Yeah, well,
because we were told that Grans was, well, I don't know,
Orphan.
it was orphaned, you see. It makes me feel very sad, thinking of children being there. Yeah, it's quite emotional, really.
Very much.
To think that your great-grandmother went through that. No, great-grandmother, because that's my grandmother.
Yeah,
Great-grandmother.
Great-grandmother, isn't it?
But like I say, they're strong women in the family, you see.
Michael wants to end his journey at a place very dear to him. A walk on Aberavon Beach provides time to reflect on his life and his experience over the past few days.
Well, it's been an extraordinary journey, really. These last few days. To find out about the family coming from Ireland, and the fact that they so obviously wanted a Michael. Just seeing my name there, and thinking, well, a Michael did come along eventually that got past the age of 6, and that was very powerful for me. And I suppose about these two incredibly strong women in different ways. Mary, who went into the workhouse, and Mary, who went into a lion's cage. It's been a fantastic experience. It's a real unique experience. So I feel very privileged that I've had the opportunity to go on this journey. These are things that will stay with me for the rest of my life now and influence me in the same way as growing up in this town as, this experience will as well.
And BBC Breakfast presenter Sheen Williams discovers an astonishing part of her heritage. That's next Wednesday at 7:30 on BBC One Wales.